Hello, everyone. My name is Sergey Gorlinsky, aka Sakrovich, and I'm the director and the lead developer of Dying Light: The Outcast. Welcome to our live stream. Today we are hosting another developer stream with another special guest from LGC. This guest's influence on players' experience is immeasurable. He is the person who knows how to make a stressful gameplay moment more tense, encourage the player during fights in the city, or make an important moment a bit more emotional. Please welcome our brilliant music composer, Benjamin Chavey.
Hello, Sergey. Hello, everyone.
Hey there. So, can you tell us how's it going in general?
I'm doing really, really well. Thanks for asking. I hope all y'all are doing well as well.
That sounds great. Can you tell us, on previous stream we asked our previous guest, Camille, similar kind of question, but how did your journey as who you are now, music composer, started?
Absolutely, yes. So initially, my drive became really well known from just previous soundtracks from past games. I grew up playing some of the old stuff at a later age, so I play Ace Combat 4, some of the earlier Call of Duties, and I fell in love with the soundtracks, the melodies, and some of the harmonies that were played. And it's kind of developed along the course up to what we have today. A lot of those core elements stayed, so it stuck with me, needless to say. After my time of going through the service and getting out, I decided to devote myself to really understanding and mastering music and working on different workstations. And I'm going to school currently at Arizona State University to become a producer and then hopefully, fingers crossed in the future, become a composer.
Yeah, I hope that the Outcast will become a nice part of your portfolio. But at what point of your life you decided to connect yourself with a Dying Light community? How did your first encounter with the franchise went?
Yes, so initially I did come across Dying Light 1 towards the end of 2015, played the following, absolutely fell in love with it. I loved the sounds from the first composer, the electronic noises, the synths, the eeriness, and some of it can be almost funny in some spots, but it keeps this core element that really grasps you and keeps you engaged throughout the whole time you're playing the game. So I definitely fell in love with those aspects. And then, of course, just Dying Light as a whole, it's just one of those games that provides so many different elements that you cannot grasp in any other type of franchise.
Yeah, Dying Light is like truly unique franchise. It's a big mix of different games I uh, personally loved as a kid, like Mirror's Edge, Far Cry. If we're speaking of the first one, and now we have the second one, which didn't go that well. But this is the purpose of our project to make it a proper product. So, but what brought you to us to LGC?
Yeah, LJC. So I was following up with the project throughout 2024. Was really hyped up for the coming of new content. And like most of y'all waiting, I was super ambitious and I could not wait to get my hands on what was to
Yeah.
come next for the project. So like most of y'all in the chat, I definitely understand how y'all feel. But luckily, a spot opened up on the team. Looking for a music composer, and artist, and luckily, I just at the time was really starting to get back into the wheels in my head turning of getting back into soundtrack. So that really pushed me to inquire about LJC, and the rest is history, and here we are.
Yeah, here we are today on this another live stream. Hope it won't be the last one, and more people in the
No,
team would
definitely
agree
not.
to give such
Yeah.
interviews. So, okay, your role is a music composer. You're the one to define how the game will sound like, if we, not mentioning sound effects and sound design. If we,
hmm
using only, if we just, exploring in the area of music. So, uh, in when it comes to overall style of the music in the Outcast, we picked a goal of our project to be a project that would not only restore but also add on top of 2019 era. So you wrote some soundtracks, some brilliant soundtrack that I had a chance to listen and implement straight into the game, and still awaiting its time to be released. So, can you tell us what's the overall difference between the retail, aka release 2022 version of the soundtrack of Dying Light 2, and the version of the 2019 soundtrack, like that style? How is it different? What do you find stands out between those two, and why does it actually matter?
Absolutely, great question. And I think most of y'all would probably agree with some of this I'm about to say and have your own take, and that's completely fair. So to start off, I'd say 2019 sounds have always carried this eerie feeling to me, and the way I can best describe it is the 2019 gameplay demo felt like a movie for its time. The way the music was placed carefully, some would argue it was scripted, but honestly, most of the tracks were built around what the player was doing for the demo's sake. However, most of the sounds, I wouldn't say were completely cut out of retail. And the thing I will say too is going back and forth, something you should pay attention to, is a lot of these sounds and segments are not all completely cut from the game. For example, a two that I really like to use is as you're finishing up the prologue in retail, or even if you're playing the project, it's still accessible. And when you get to the rooftop with Hakon, and you're about to open the military chest and there's
Yeah,
no, military kit in there or anything. Well, he does end up getting the electronics, but fast forward, the night starts, the sequence starts of being chased, and it plays the Dark Zone music from 2019. I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, what? Like I was so
yeah,
confused.
yes,
I was
yes.
like, what, how would happen? Then you have the remix of Help I'm Alive, start building up and
Hmm.
the vibes are all there. You get all the way to the bazaar. And the reason I bring this up is because the segment you hear, and might be just one of those little details that some of you may miss, and it's an easy thing to miss because the soundtrack blends together still well to this day, but it still plays the 2019 segment of riding in the truck with Steve, when you're trying to get inside the bazaar with Hakon outside and
Yeah,
shut the UV lights down. But not to get too far off track of that, but the reason I bring that up is because it's important to know that a lot of these things still exist, and it's hard to understand at what point they started fading into retail. But really, it boils down to the eeriness, the rawness of the world. The synths and the arpeggiators, the rhythmic feeling that gets you moving. I know we've mentioned before we're talking about the Colonel's hideout and how that moment of whenever Steve raises the alarm as you're making your way down into like the water system, down the pipes into the water, there's that feeling of fight or flight, right? And as you're in that moment, you're hearing inside the music these like almost alarm synth, and it's not actually alarm in game, it's the music, and it's so crazy, how they incorporated such something so simple and subtle, yet it takes you away and it builds up the aggression as if, what you're watching is happening to you. And that is overall what I'd like to say we, as in all of us, are trying to restore, with correct feedback. But opposed to 2022 soundtrack, it's there's a time and place for these elements to be placed, and when it comes to retail, it can definitely feel more uplifting and hopeful, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a time and place for that. However, when the overall soundtrack seems somewhat generic, I hate to use that word because I really admire the artist and I'd use a lot of inspiration from him, but I don't completely blame him. I think it was the overall shift of the game in general. The whole vision changed a lot of the music and what stayed and what left, and I think we just got to see those little bits and pieces that we love and cherish still left over in the game. So that's what I would say about that one.
yeah. Glad you mentioned that Alarm soundtrack from 2019 when you're getting exposed by the Steve with his horn alarm, and the overall soundtrack starts with that alarm being part of the soundtrack. That one is also still in the game and plays in a completely different moment that I don't think actually fits the soundtrack. It's that moment of the boss fight with Barney at the Sophie's hideout at the hotel. You fight with Barney. If you pick the proper path, you reach that point, and
Right.
this soundtrack's still there. And as well as a lot of other moments where 2019 soundtrack is still appearing, like here and there in the game. In either a bit changed form, like the last parkour, or in a completely the same way like it was in 2019, like that for example the Barney's boss fight music. So even that Colonel's Champion music is still being part of the game, and you can
Yes.
hear it
Yeah.
all the time in the game. It's went from being a unique boss fight theme to be a one-time thing into a really generic music that supposed to be unique, but since it happening and appearing all the time in the game, you hear it all the time. It's getting really annoyed, and boss fights doesn't feel that unique anymore because of the one of the biggest cores of the uniqueness of the boss fight. Not just like unique moveset or unique strategy you need to apply to the boss, but actual music. Each boss can have a unique boss fight music, which will make it a good moment in the story that many players will come back later, or will memorize it for a really long
Absolutely,
time.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. So, but speaking about 2019 style of the music, we have a lot of different instruments and synths being used in the soundtrack. So, what is it
Hmm.
about using plugins that you find change the overall atmosphere of Dying Light 2 music?
Yeah, so synths and strings, I pay attention to that topic here. So, uh, at its core, there's a lot of times when listening to a soundtrack, strings, to me personally, have always stood out the most. Strings and brass, arguably more strings than not, though. I'd say it's more of like a 75 to 25% when it comes to strings and brass. They definitely carry, they give the anxiety, the eerie, the excitement, the sadness, the emotional portion of all songs. The thing, though, that when it comes to a song that you would create, such as for the project or something going back to 2019, or maybe it could be any game anyone might be thinking of right now. There's a lot of synths, electrical sounds that are used to replace these raw instruments, these strings, these mostly all string instruments, even brass. There's lots of plugins that replicate, something of a small symphony or orchestra. So all this stuff is available, to creators like myself, and others. And the key thing to pay attention to in songs like this is you go back through and where you would initially create and set those pieces and those notes, for raw strings, you go back and you replace it with something electronic. Because funny enough, you can actually go in and use a plugin and you can tweak that plugin that replicates a string or a small ensemble, for example, which is be like a group of strings, and you may have like a cello, viola, and two violins accompanying it. And you go back and you take these instruments and you're tweaking them to, sound more rhythmic, more haunting, more ambience. Because let's be honest, the world is all about ambience, decay, and just eeriness. And that's something
Yeah.
we really want to try to restore. So when I create something, that is definitely something I really try to keep in mind. Is this the synths and strings concept, and it's something I tell myself every time I create a song. You go back there and you're taking those core elements and you're replacing them, not necessarily completely wiping, raw elements and strings from music. It's all still there in most of my songs, but you're also accompanying it, to give it that eerie feeling. So yeah.
Yeah. So when you recreate 2019 aesthetic with all the synths, all the plugins here, it comes, there are two big words that might appear in your mind. It's quality and complexity. So, what
Hmm.
seems to
Yep.
matter more between the two, and how does this shape up to fit the 2019 aesthetics?
Yeah, those are great points. Yeah, so quality and complexity. Honestly, and I mean honestly, it comes down to the situation. And when I mean situation, I mean what the player is going through. So, for example, I like to bring up the substation music. Even in retail, the substation music is fire. It is so good. It helps you relax. You're still engulfed into this universe, but the song is so simple. It's so calming. You forget about everything going on outside. It's like you forget the time of day. It's just you and this puzzle, and you're trying to solve it, and the music just lets you take a break and breathe, but you're still also immersed and understand that you're still in the world. You're just taking a break. So I would consider that more of a quality song. There's not too much going on. And then for complexity, you think of something as like, maybe like you're fighting a demolisher, right? Or let's say like the Colonel's champion music, right? That
Yeah.
is Awesome. And like you said, it's still there, and you can still hear it every time you play back, and it's amazing, and it always will be. But there's a lot going on. I mean, so many anxiety-inducing things. Some of it almost even just sounds like it's just simply noise, and there's so many noise plugins, sound effects you can use that aren't necessarily music, but when you use it right and apply it with notes that match up to what the core element of the song is based on, and you follow those rules, then it really comes out and it all flows together, and you have this masterpiece as such. So I like to say I created a song and I posted it in music probably a month back, and I feel bad because it wasn't quite to par of what it is now, and some of y'all, no one has seen it yet, to what it is now.
Hmm.
It's changed a bit, but it's a rather quality song. It's calming, but what I was really shooting for is aiming towards that 2019 vibe. Something more raw, more gritty, but it still keeps that calm, peaceful moment of just you in the substation trying to solve this puzzle and you're relaxing versus mutation, for example. Some of y'all might
Hmm.
have seen that on the server, and that has improved as well.
Yeah, by the way, join the
And
Discord server, guys, and the link is in the description. Join us, and there you can find the latest news and sneak peeks regarding the project, as well as Benjamin's latest releases.
yeah, please. And we're looking to post up more, maybe more professional. We want to start doing more videos. I love sharing little loops and stuff I find that reminisce Dying Light atmosphere, even if it's something from the following or one. I try to keep all those things in mind. But yeah. And then as far as I was saying for complexity, for mutation, there's so many dynamics going on. There's
Yeah,
lots of panning and the tracks going left and
so
right,
many
even if
things.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, even if it's very subtle. I mean, I amazed myself. I never really would have thought I would have made something that good in the time that I had. There's definitely better stuff to come, and that track still might receive some tune-ups in the future. But as of now, it's a good baseline, and it's something I was really excited to make in regards to fighting a big enemy. So that's really what I'd like to split down between quality and complexity. You have multiple sounds trying to push something, and then you have this quality song where it might not be so many sounds or layers, but it's more of how you use those layers, how they go together.
Yeah, instead of being like a mass, they actually, being aligned with each other, turning into a great symphony.
Hmm.
So, if we're speaking of creating the music in general, what is
Yeah.
your, average process of approaching new music for our project, starting from scratch?
Starting from scratch. Wow. All right. So, it really comes down to the previous point, actually. You mentioned quality and complexity. I keep those two things in mind. I keep the synths and strings in mind, and I also keep in mind the 2019 sounds as opposed to the 2022 retail soundtrack, which again are both good. And I will be honest with y'all, I pull from both because both contain really, really good elements still. There's a fine line in between, and that's really what we're aiming to restore is that balance. Instead of being too far to the left or too far to the right, we really wanted to seek a good overall experience with the music, and we want each moment where it plays to really fit the experience and something you'll remember that moment for in the music. But as far as creating, it really comes down to starting with a simple sound. You're thinking of a segment in the game. I mean, let's be honest. I play the project too. I played it a bunch. I've been there, and I think to
Yeah.
myself all the time, what would be great right here is this. And I'll go and I'll make something, and I'm like, no, this is terrible. This is like the worst thing you could ever come up with, and I'll scrap it. And maybe Sergey never even sees it, or maybe we'll agree to disagree, or maybe we'll just build upon it, and it completely turns into something else. It's crazy how it works sometimes.
Yeah.
I was just tweaking a song not too long ago, and I was going back and I was going to add another layer, and it turns out that layer I added ended up turning into its own entire song, and I exported it to a completely different project. And it's the rest is history when it comes to that. But it's really just taking a sound, something that matches the situation that you're imagining the player to be in. Whether it's going through a dark zone or it's rhythmic arpeggiator, it's anxiety inducing, it's stressful, you know. And a funny thing about that I want to say as a side note is it's crazy to me how much the music really shapes the world. As far as like going into a dark zone in retail, for example, you kind of get this repeated song off and on or in certain situations. It's something that you commonly come across in the world, and you want something more dark and fitting. And it's crazy how much of a swap from an audio file can really change the experience and the way you see, what it is you're navigating through. But again, you just, you take that simple sound, you build upon it, you add layers, and you fail. You add stuff, you try it, it doesn't work, or you add something great and it becomes a whole nother project, and you get sidetracked from the one you're making, but you just have to go with it. As a creator, personally, as something you struggle with, it's like, you come up, you get on, you log in, and you're like, all right, like this is what I'm
Hmm.
doing, and you get halfway into it, and the next thing you know, you're making two different ambiences for something you didn't even plan on because you came across that one sound that you thought was just going to be a layer, and then again, you're just building, you're finding stuff to add on, stack up, and just layers to match those notes, and the rest is history. It really is. So it's again, it's like I said, it's keeping those all those aspects in mind. The retail soundtrack versus the OG 2019. Find the happy medium. The synths and strings, find those core elements and replace them with something electronic, and then just play with it. If it doesn't work, it's fine. Scratch it and try something else, and then until you find the thing that works, and then layer it. Layer it and
Hmm.
build the emotion, and then the quality and complexity. Like how intense does this song really need to be? Or can I really get away with manipulating the sounds I already have by using their built-in settings for those plugins? So yeah.
Yeah, it sort of makes sense because you know we have two different eras, 2019 and retail, but they still sort of siblings. As you said, there's a good middle part between those two, and
Mhm.
we sort of using it and utilizing that. Uh, they basically, as I said, siblings. They have some common parts. They have sometimes even the same elements, samples being reused here and there, and etc. But also to add on top of what you said about the, that sometimes one thing is, turning to be a completely different thing in the end of the development. Like the whole development and the overall production of anything, of any aspect of the project, is truly a box of chocolate. You just never know what's inside of the guy. You know it's gonna be good, but you never know what's gonna be inside. Maybe it's a pipe bomb. Who knows? So uh, let's maybe move to another topic. So you wrote a song, right? You starting to be exact, you started working on some new soundtrack for the team for the project. So how do you actually form it? Because you mentioned the feedback. So how would you describe the overall experience of proposing different ideas, concepts regarding music, and just feedback from the community or even from the team?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned before, we go back and forth quite a bit, playing with something, and a lot of times, I'll propose something that may start as a simple sound. I'm like, what do you think of this? And the opinion stated, by the team or a few or the community, and I take that and I go back with it and I try again. I use that sound and maybe I layer it or twist it up. But the thing that's really hard about music overall, and I mean, I'm sure everyone on the team, I know for a fact everyone on the team here at LJC can understand, is that when you're creating something, you want to show it so bad. You want to share it, and even if it's not in its final state because you're so excited, but there's that moment where you have to wait. You're you're hovering
Yeah.
over the mouse and you think, okay, like this isn't time, it needs to be done right, which brings me back to say what I said earlier, we're really wanting to post and bring up more about music, and news and make it, more professional and open. Something y'all can just stream flawlessly rather than being, just some random MP3 file. But I try to share what I can when I can, but there's so much stuff we have that, it's just better to wait and see it in the end when the full project is, completed,
Yeah.
or in, at least in the next stage when y'all are able to get your hands on it in that situation and hear that new music, regardless of where it's played or how it's played. But yeah, the community is a big one too. I mean, all anyone out there, all y'all who love the music, who care about it, please, like any feedback is good feedback. As I always say, I tell myself, and it's hard sometimes to like I was talking to Sergey earlier, and we were talking about how, you want to share something so bad, but you find it's better to wait until it's in a more proper state. You have to sit back and you have to wait. Same thing goes with
Yeah.
creating music. You create a song and you walk away from it and you got to come back to it. You can't log in and I can't knock out, the entirety of the 2019 truck chase in a day. I mean, I wish I could, but it would be slop and crap. So,
Hmm.
we hold out and we come back and then you find, more layers and you build up. It's so fun and it's so exciting. And I really can't wait to share more with y'all and hear y'all's feedback because it's only going to improve and get better. And there's so much. I mean, there is so much more that we can do, and I just can't wait to meet that road when we get to it.
Yeah, it's sometimes better for some things to not be announced early. Yeah, I even might know,
Yeah.
or some people might understand what I mean here about like something,
Oh yeah, they do.
something related, some
Yeah.
updates that come
Yeah.
once per few years. But that's not
Yeah.
the main topic. Obviously, sometimes it's better to hear things when they're, finally polished because, when you're looking at some kind of sculpture that's unfinished, you just see the sort of not finalized shape of the statue. And it's hard to
Right.
tell like how it's going to look like. And a lot of people criticize uh, things that are unfinished without taking into consideration the fact that it's work in progress, that things will be different. And right now we're collecting feedback, and I love to say it, but there's no good or bad feedback. Any feedback is a feedback coming from you guys, and that needs to be considered as a response to our actions. And this way, we can shape up a good, solid project that would meet both ours and yours expectations, and be good, not just in terms of the gameplay or the story, but in overall quality of the project to get what you guys want. And this applies to any aspect of the game. So it also applies to, as Benjamin said, music. You give him any kind of idea, any kind of feedback that he might take into consideration and later implement into either existing or his future tracks that he is working on or might work in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I really personally want to share a lot. In the stream right now, you can hear different snippets of the music that Benjamin wrote. And I can tell you guys that's something coming soon. And it's not demo update number 2, which is also coming. It's just around the corner. You just have to peek. But there is something that's a bit closer to you. I just recommend you guys to have your music platforms ready, like Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, or any other. We have a big release zone for that thing. So Benjamin cooked something, and I don't know if I can, or or maybe I shouldn't even talk about it. But in a pretty soon
Yeah.
time fragment, I'd say maybe should I say an approximate time, Benjamin, or
I'd say April for sure. We're at a point where we have enough content, and this isn't so much as like, look at what we've done. This is like we're presenting something to you. We want you to listen to it. You enjoy it, great. You want to leave feedback, great. But we basically have an EP sort of project coming to where it'll be consist of 5 or 6 songs, depending on what else I can get done in time. Fingers crossed. But we want to put it out for y'all to listen on platforms, and it contains a lot of the core music thus far that I have created, and there will be definitely more stuff like that to come.
yeah, and this is like the biggest sneak peek we've ever done. It's like really on that level of official production that not many projects actually reaches. Uh, so that thing, yes, will come in April. Once again, it's not demo update number 2. I mean, we can say about any dates of the upcoming content, but we can say that this EP project for music platforms will come out in April.
Yep.
That's the maximum amount of info you guys can pull from
Yeah.
me or Benjamin because we are both under NDAs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fingers
And
crossed
I'd
that
like to
everything works
just,
fine.
yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed. I'd just like to say something too, for the rest of the community. I know, y'all are craving gameplay, and I just want to say I also am craving gameplay. Trust me. Sekiro tells me to shut up about it all the time. But,
That happens. That
well,
happens.
but someone's got to do it. So anyway, I've been in y'all shoes, like I get it. Um, supporting. I supported on Boosty as well for a while because I had so much ambition, and I saw how much ambition was put behind this. And I mean, there is a lot more than what meets the eye. You go back and you dig through, it's all there. The dev diary. I mean, just go back, take a moment, go back and just look at what these guys have done, and it's still crazy to me. But then being on the team, the transition from being, rather a consumer in a sense, and then going on to a creator, it definitely puts the pressure on. You see now why, stuff has to wait. But really, in my eyes, it gives me more time to craft as much as I can to cram into demo update number 2. And I promise I'm going to try to cram as much as I can, probably. So, yeah, that's really all I can say there on that.
Can you repeat the last few words? Your internet, I think, jammed a bit.
I'll be jamming up there, but yeah, I was just saying, we're looking to cram in as much as possible, in this last stretch we have, prior to demo update 2.
Yeah, the thing is, we'll have another big, even bigger stretch, because obviously development doesn't stop at releasing an update for demo. There will be way more things to come in the future. Of course, we not willing to announce them right now because we have an experience with announcing things too early and regretting we are in the position when we have to say you guys that pretend we never announced it. That's just something we really don't want to say to tell you guys today. But anyway, things being cooked. Stay tuned and etc. So, but Benjamin, what about technical stuff? By the way, we spoke the whole live stream about the music, about mostly creative part of making the music. But when it means the technical side of the music implementation, I think it's more like a question to me. But I know that you're too into that, and you can say at least a few words about it. How do you think the technical side of implementing music into the C engine works?
Yeah, so just recently, me and Sergey were talking, about Devise, the software that's used in Dying Light 2 in most common games today. There's obviously other platforms out there that support it, but I can't say too much about it now because I'd confidently say we just don't know how far we can reach it, but we know in the future it'll definitely be possible. But we're looking to be able to access wise and be able to start writing, script for music so that it interacts in the world the same way it does, in retail. So, and what this means, pay attention here, is that we have the possibility to create, a whole new batch of parkour interactive music, similar to 2019, and we can really find the vibe. And that's not to say that, we would necessarily get rid of everything that was retail, because I mean, let's be honest, the joy of parkour is great. It's one of my favorite, and I hope it stays. But
So we'll see
if not
about that.
understandable, yeah, we'll see what we can cook up in that time frame. But yeah, implementing through Vivise back into a C engine is something we are definitely looking into. And like I said, I just can't say too much about it. I don't want to say more than I can, but I'm definitely excited and looking forward to being able to break up the music. And then, of course, I think, I guess to answer your question more specifically, Sergey, about the technical side, from at least what I can reach, that's within my reach, is whenever I'm writing a song that's rather repeated in stages. For example, the substation music, or maybe like a ambient segment when the player's trying to climb or navigate to a different area. and he's laying low and he's under surveillance or something of that
Mm-hmm.
nature, or any game y'all could imagine where something similar is playing in the background. You have to understand that there's these stages, that the transition, you have to understand how to execute these stages properly. And it isn't always done right the first time. You have to go back and listen. But the looping, in a sense, is already there as you're creating the song. You break it up into however different measures of something similar, but you got to fill in all these different sounds, to keep it interesting, dynamic, to keep you from settling on the idea that the song is two loops. So it's definitely something technical you have to pay attention to, and you have to tweak sounds, fade ins, fade outs, panning, all that stuff really matters, layering, even just sound effects. Um, there's one song I know you like it a lot, and we talked about it a bunch, and it was like the most simplest thing, whenever we were creating, um, spoiler alert, the city, which y'all will hear in the EP very, very soon. The main menu theme, as we'll call it for now, we have that like crackle in the beginning. It sounds like decaying of chemicals, and I was like, it was so random, but we just like came across that plugin and I tweaked it so many different ways, and I never would have thought I would like try to find something that simple to take so long to try to tweak to find the right one. And we're like, that one, and then sometimes you have playback too. Whenever you play back on some certain softwares, it'll play the sound differently every time. So you have to like maybe take two or three recordings of the
Yeah.
intro, until you hear that certain one and you're like, that's it, that one right there, we'll save it and we'll talk about it and then we'll move forward. But yeah,
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Benjamin, so much for answering all of my questions here. So it's time to answer not just my questions, but I think our viewers, all 26 people here, will have some questions to you. Let's start
yeah,
maybe with
absolutely.
some questions that are already written. Let me check if there's some.
All
Let
right.
me check. Yeah, guys, please ask your questions in the chat. I'll read them to Benjamin, and he'll be, more than happy, I hope, to reply to your interesting questions. Will the
Yeah,
sound
anything, please.
The question from Brandon Ian: will the soundtrack be uploaded here? Probably means YouTube.
Yeah, we definitely look forward to posting it. If we can post it on my channel or the actual project channel as well. And then, like I said, it'll probably be on YouTube. Well, most definitely will be on YouTube prior to any of them. But for those of you who like to stream on other platforms or maybe use the music in a project of yours or something to promote our project, then yeah, it'll be out there for you to use, and it will be on YouTube most definitely.
Yeah, let's say maybe there's more questions. If there's none, guys, we can just wrap it up. Will Benjamin
Oh,
work on SFX as well, or there will be someone else for that?
I would say yes and no. It kind of just depends on how much. I mean, you could definitely answer the sound effects part more serious than I could, but I'd say I'm definitely open, is what I'll say. I'm open to creating sound effects for the world, even if it's very, very subtle or small ambience tweaks that are layered over an ambient segment. Yeah.
Yeah, are you taking any inspirational beats from Down at One?
Yes, there's lots as, and more specifically, the following. I loved the following's music so much. I loved the dynamics of it. I loved the chirps, and it's actually something. There was like this chirp effect in one of the following songs. I think it's one of the ambiences that play whenever you're around the thugs, and it's something I use in one of the songs we have created now. And it might get some more tweaking, but a lot of it's hidden in there. A lot of my inspiration comes from that. So it definitely is a blend of not just 2019 sounds, 2022 soundtrack. It's Dying Light as a whole. It's all in there. It's all in the pot.
Okay, a question from myself. Uh,
Yeah.
well, you told me you are, listen to different game soundtracks, and you're taking inspirations from that. Uh, Question: what top three games you took an inspiration from during your entire, music career.
Oh, that is a good one. I can confidently list one off the top of my head right now, and that would probably be Ace Combat franchise. The Namco sound design team is amazing. And speaking of them, they're coming out with eight, I believe, this year, and I'm really excited. More so for the soundtrack than anything. I love what they make, the dynamics, the emotion. It's so good. But yeah, honestly, I definitely would throw Dying Light in there as well. Dying Light, Ace Combat, and then Battlefield, and a mixture of maybe some of the older Call of Duty stuff. Just the composers, I've always been more in love with the music from those first-person shooter games,
Hmm.
probably more than anything, or taking inspiration, especially the old stuff. So yeah, you got to love it all. You got to take into consideration all the things, because again, there's a moment for all of it, and you have to execute it right and mix it together. So yeah.
How many days it takes to make just one soundtrack?
Oh. Uh, it varies. It really does. Like I said, I think it goes back to the quality and complexity. It depends on what the music is being set for in the moment. So, for example, if it's like the substation, sometimes, I'll hop on the computer and I open up the workstation and I just start playing around with sounds and I find something I really like. And usually it's those. It's the ones where I'm not intentionally trying to create anything. I'm just playing around. Those end up taking the longest. But when I have an idea of what it is I'm wanting to do, for example, Mutation, if y'all go back and listen to that as many times as you want, a clear version of it will be uploaded later, but it's there. Um, Something like that, it probably took, 3 or 4 days of, but you have to take a lot of breaks in that time. You got to go out, you got to touch grass, let's be honest, and you come back in and then you sit down and you hear something you don't like, and then I remember, um, this is kind of off topic, but on topic.
Hmm.
I was actually writing or creating the 2019. This is a spoiler too. I mean, we did announce it. I personally announced it in the music channel when I initially opened it that I was trying to recreate the truck chase segment, but it's actually transformed into what we would call an orchestral piece or a more arranged version. So there's going to be a lot more going on. There's never going to be a dull moment as you'd rather hear it, in the trailer. It's actually going to be a full piece of music. And originally the song and in my head it was going to be almost like 7 minutes long because there was going to just be like this big bonus track, but you have to crop that down. You have to find where everything fits, and that's the song thus far is just in the first stage, blending into the second stage now as we speak. I'm working on it more today, but I'm so excited to share that one with y'all because it's probably the most probably emotional and in-depth piece I've written yet. But yeah, it really just depends. It can take anywhere from a few days or maybe even a week, depending on how much you got to take a break and come back so you don't overwhelm yourself or try to force the song.
I hope that satisfies the guy who asked
Yeah.
about that. Can we get a short preview of any tracks in this live stream? Thing is, during this whole 45 minutes, you could have hear the snippets of different soundtracks that Benjamin produced. So if you listen closely, I hope that's a thing you can hear. Well, yeah, definitely can hear that. That's the snippet you are asking for. From Mr. Camille,
Boy,
who's definitely not a developer from LGC.
never heard of
He's
him in my
asking,
life.
who's your favorite composer, Benjamin?
Oh, Hank Miller really put me on the spot. Uh, I mean, it's like getting handed a crown and you're like, who's going to be the king? Um, if I have to really give it to someone, um, I loved Star Wars, growing up. There might be mixed feelings about, the newer stuff and releases, but really the soundtracks, I gotta give it to John Williams,
Mm-hmm.
really.
Yeah, the classic.
Yeah, it is something you can't pass up. I mean, he's the GOAT. He's been around for so long. Um,
I think
But yeah, I mean,
he. Yeah.
I hate to lower anyone else. I mean, everyone is great. You know, I will never be on the level of Olivier de Riviere, but I strive to be. So, and we're only just in the first few steps. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'd ask, how about you, Sergey? Who's your favorite composer?
Oh, that's
You see what I
that's
mean?
yeah, yeah. I see. Yeah, yeah. I'll go for it. Okay. I like the work of Brian Reitzel, who wrote soundtracks for Far Cry and Watch Dogs, and a lot of
Hmm.
other Ubisoft games. I also love the work of uh, what was his name? Yeah, yeah, Genie Byrne, the AKA Buyanov, Nikita Buyanov, the creator and the lead developer of Escape from Tarkov. He wrote some really solid, nice soundtrack for Escape from Tarkov, and I think he'll keep going with other projects, which I wish him the best. Uh, and I can't memorize more. I also loved the electronic music of Subnautica that was written by Stevie Blonsky. I think I hope I pronounced it right. Jablonski or Yablonski.
Yeah, funny
Yeah.
enough, my brothers are a big fan of that work too. I'd never personally played the game, but I can definitely appreciate the soundtrack. Yeah.
Trust me, it's
Yep.
good. It fits the atmosphere.
It is, yeah.
That alien planet full of nothing but water and danger right below it. Another question from Ryan Hosling himself. Is there any chance of hiring more people for music? That's more a question to me. We have in our Discord server, link in the description. You can join, check. There's a channel called Recruitment, and there you can check any available positions in the LGC for the Outcast project and any other projects we have. So if you think you're fitting for some role and you want to participate in the project, you will have to just DM me and sign some papers. We'll have a short interview, sign an NDA, and here you go. You're a part of the team. And I'm already working on one of the biggest projects for Dying Light franchise, the fan made. I mean,
That's right.
what will the download file size of the whole game be? I can't tell about that, but I can tell you that that's going to be less than 10 gigs. Hope that's a satisfying response. Not really related to the Outcast, but what does Benjamin think of Red Dead Redemption 2's music?
You know what? I can definitely appreciate it. It has been a long, I think I played that game last in probably 20, I think it probably was 2019 the last I touched that game. Yeah, I'm trying to think back. I know there's a different kind of atmosphere, and for me personally, I will say this as you asking, whenever I get in a zone of music such as this, I go like all out listening to anything relevant for so long. But that is definitely, I would say I loved it. It's great. I mean, I always have loved soundtrack from regardless any game, regardless of reviews or ratings. I always appreciate a soundtrack because I never really blame the composer for a shift in a title, you know, such as Dying Light 2. But yeah, to answer your question, RDR2's soundtrack is great.
If I go to the next one. Uh, that guy Grease says that synth is Dying Light, not strings.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
isn't it
it,
what
it
we
is.
said?
Yeah, yeah, it's that's true. You can go back and listen to that segment if you didn't catch it. Or if you're just stating in general, yeah, absolutely, I agree. It's again, it's all about taking those core elements and replacing them. You know, with that, you know, light electronic, that hiss, the fuzziness of that electronic sound. You know, and tweaking it to replicate those sounds. So yeah.
Will you repeat the same bug from Dying Light the Beast with over constantly repeated music as their ambience? Oh, I think it's not a bug. Sorry, mistake. Uh,
Yeah.
I think he means that leitmotif that the Beast have. It's being played all over the place, like in the
Right.
ambience, when you're just exploring the areas, and
Yeah.
in majority of soundtrack.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, yeah, go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I can't say too much on this now because I'm still, it kind of boils down to regions of the map, but we're definitely looking towards including as much dynamic ambience as possible. So basically, to the point where there's going to be some parts, obviously where it can be unavoidable to hear a loop, but the loop is going to be designed so well that, it's just going to move flawlessly. And that's something I'm really looking forward to moving into. And then there's going to be some parts of the map, or depending on where you are, or what you're doing, that um, it'll just carry you away. Like you'll kind of just forget where you are. You'll forget about the soundtrack. It's not necessarily going to hold on to the same motif, or melody, or leitmotiv, as you say, the entire time. It might pan off a bit and be different. But we definitely want to. It's all about immersion. So I think of it myself when I listen to the song. I listen to the song 1,000 times. I promise you. And if I try to picture the moment where it's playing, and I think even for a second, that the overall idea of the song doesn't fit, like it's go back to the very beginning and rebuild the whole song because something isn't working. So even for ambience, like even something that simple, like it matters. So yeah.
Yeah, plus, every character, usually have own leitmotiv, sort of, which
Hmm.
we can infuse with other tracks, for different story situations with that certain character presented. We could sort of integrate that leitmotiv into the track to show the uh, appearance of the certain character in that plot point, or for example, like character dies, and that's like a tragic version of his leitmotiv plays. So I think something like that. I mean, this is what basically every soundtrack does. This is pretty rudimentary thing. But in the Beast, the Kyle has his own theme, and the game itself has also. Wait. I think no. The Kyle's theme is the theme of the Beast, and yeah, that's been repeated over and over again. And the problem is, it needs some variation. Like more characters needs
Yeah.
to have own themes, which would be mixed with other tracks. For to show their appearance, as I said. Okay.
Hmm.
You all are amazing people. Keep it up, boys and girls. Thank you, Dimex.
Yeah, thank
And
y'all. I mean, we thank all y'all for being here. Really, we appreciate it. I know there's probably definitely. I mean, there's obviously so much more y'all would wish to see, but this is all I can do for y'all. So I do appreciate y'all being here and showing support. We really do appreciate it.
how long have you all been working on the project? I can tell you 2.5 years, I think. What did you guys do before joining devs?
Mm. I'll let you go first because I'm curious.
Oh my god, I was doing literally nothing. My overall modding career, if we, like, I don't know how to. What point of my life should I pick? Like when I became a modder or when I started the project? Because both of answers are not that different. Before I started modding, I was basically doing nothing because I was like, how old was I? I was 13, 14 when I started back in 2018, 19. Uh, so just doing kid stuff, I guess. But I was really into doing into I was really into the dream of making my own games, to be honest. But I never got a chance to do that because I didn't have proper knowledge back then. I didn't have any resources. I didn't have anything. But that idea, became overall main factor to me to move forward. And in the end of the day, finally have a project that we developed together, and obviously we most likely won't just limit ourselves with the Outcast because there might be more. But as I said, as being said, it's too early to say anything, and everything's restricted info. Yeah, so Benjamin, now it's your turn.
Boy. Yeah, before the project, I mean, I was working on music here and there. I I joined the service back in 2017, and then I got out in 2021, and that's pretty much where my journey began. I was already um, making my way towards the road of music on my way out of the service, and it pretty much led me all the way up to this point. Did a little bit of trade school, um,
Hmm.
but yeah, here we are. Arizona State University, a popular music program, subject to change, but yeah, producer is what I'm aiming for, and here we are.
Okay. So, which program Benjamin uses to make the music?
Yeah, program. So it is a mix between Logic Pro and GarageBand. There is a ginormous library. I think it's around 16. I want to say 16 to 17,000 sounds. Total plugins, and that's including each individual plugin for that sound.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's a mix. It goes back and forth. Some benefit. Each program benefits and lacks. I'd say GarageBand can lack a bit more when it comes to more complex stuff, but it can be very simple and easy to navigate. So I suggest, if any of y'all out there, if any of you out there are wanting to, dive into music or create your own stuff, I really, really suggest, um, if you're using iOS, or Apple, download GarageBand, get the sound pack, start playing around with stuff. Um, and it'll just take you to the next level. And eventually, once you master it, you just move on. And, um, a lot of it is just repetition. So, but yeah, to
Yeah.
answer your question, GarageBand, Logic Pro for sure.
What kind of instruments are you guys utilizing? For example, synths like from Dying Light 1, or like the orchestral songs from Dying Light 2?
That is a great question, and I will be completely honest with you, Casey. It is both. It is right down the middle, and this is why, Sergey, I cannot wait to share the city and the rest. Of course, I think you guys will get the idea of where we're heading, and it's just the beginning.
Yeah, more to come. There's more to come
Hmm.
and more to enjoy. Okay, I think this is a moment when we are out of the questions. So if you guys have some more questions, ask, because if there won't be, any, I think we have our time limit passed at this point. We're almost an hour streaming.
Hmm.
So let us guys know if there's any other question. We'll reply to some few last ones, and that will be the wrap. We'll wrap it up. I think I don't know if I should ask this. How's okay? We can't. I reply to that one. I can tell you only think that things are okay. When the modful releases, have you thought of releasing? Oh, thank you. Okay, the message got deleted. Will you monetize the mod in some way? I wouldn't mind since you put in hard work. We have a Boosty page in the description. There you can donate by buying a subscription role, which will give you benefits of making an in-game appearance in the Hall of Fame and in the credits. But we're slowly gonna close it, and I mean the Boosty, we're gonna discontinue it soon. So because the financial side of the project is more than good, and we no longer require any donations or something else. We might leave it as is, but we'll just not advertise it as much as we used to do. Well, I mean, we're already not doing that hard with advertising anything. As you can tell, for a year or so. So yeah, you can just go in the description. There will be a Boosty link, I think. Let me check if it's there. 1 second. A real quick check. Oh, it's not there. Okay, give me a second. I'll paste it in the chat, I think. Oh, my bad. Okay, yeah, now it works. Okay, so going back to questions. When the mod fully releases, have you thought of releasing a physical discs that contains all the soundtracks? Benjamin, are we gonna do that?
Oh man. Uh, I thought myself the other day, it would be awesome, when it's all said and done and all the dust has settled, to have a vinyl framed of all the work, we did regarding music. And so to answer your question, maybe a limited amount, depending on funds, because if anything like that was done, it would probably just be out of pocket, which isn't bad, but obviously it would be very a limited amount being distributed from me if we talked, of course, and worked
Yeah,
that out. But again, I will say again, for any of those of you who might have missed it, this coming month, April, I would like to say on the first half of April, the first 2 weeks, we're looking to have that artwork and that EP out, that project out, containing those few songs for y'all to listen to and give feedback on. So we're really excited about that.
yeah, and regarding that on top, we also have some early plans for making a merch for our project. And it needs to be done in order to avoid any issues with Techland. It needs to be sort of neutral, to don't include any Dying Light trademarks, any copyrighted things. So, but since we're making a lot of custom things, we'll find something to give you guys as a part of our merch drop. So, and maybe the physical release of the soundtrack, in short uh, uh, in short amount, might end up in that merch drop. So we'll see how it
Mhm.
goes. It's still like a plan in sake of planning, and nothing more for now. It's in plans, but the execution might take a lot of time before we reach that point. Is there gonna be interactive destructible objects in the mod? Absolutely. You can destroy wooden planks on windows. You can the physical objects. Just like in the retail, but we use it in some different places. That's good to hear. It's doing well. Thanks. No problem. How many people are working on the project? Right now, LGC consists of 11 people. So I guess, guys, let me check. Maybe I missed some messages. Give me a moment. If that's it, we're gonna end. Yeah. Plus, yeah, viewers count dropped. So, yeah, I think that's it. So, guys, thank you, all of you, who joined us today for our sort of live stream slash podcast with our special guest, Benjamin Chavey, our music composer, whose work you'll hear a lot in the project. Not only in the project, you'll also hear it in April on some streaming platforms. So, thank you guys once again. It's time to say goodbyes and see you guys later on in the future. In the future. So, Benjamin.
Yeah, thanks
So
y'all. Thank
yeah,
y'all for all tuning in. We appreciate it. All y'all are awesome. Keep up the good work supporting, and we'll return the favor. Take
yeah,
care.
yeah. Benjamin said his last words. Now it's time to say goodbyes. See ya, guys. Goodbye.